A reading from the book of Acts, chapter 17, verses 22 to 31. Paul stood up in front of the city council and said, "I see that in every way you Athenians are very religious. For as I walked through your city and looked at the places where you worship, I found an altar on which is written, 'To an unknown God.' That which you worship then, even though you do not know it, is what I now proclaim to you. God, who made the world and everything in it, is Lord of heaven and earth, and does not live in temples made by human hands, nor does he need anything that we can supply by working for him, since it is he himself who gives life and breath and everything else to everyone. From one human being, he created all races of people and made them live throughout the whole earth. He himself fixed beforehand the exact times and the limits of the places where they would live. He did this so that they would look for him and perhaps find him as they felt around for him. Yet God is actually not far from any one of us. As someone has said, in him we live and move and exist. It is as some of your poets have said, we too are his children. Since we are God's children, we should not suppose that his nature is anything like an image of gold or silver or stone, shaped by human art and skill. God has overlooked the times when people did not know him, but now he commands all of them everywhere to turn away from their evil ways. For he has fixed a day in which he will judge the whole world with justice by means of a man he has chosen. He has given proof of this to everyone by raising that man from death." This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
In the reading from the book of Acts, we hear of Paul visiting the city of Athens, probably his second big tour of the Mediterranean. It's a very cosmopolitan city, as universities, philosophers, poets, intellectuals. They would often love to gather and debate around the city forum. Paul arrived there and never wanted to miss an opportunity. He seized the moment to present his case for the God that he worshipped and served. The Athenians, they worshipped many gods, but didn't know much about Paul's God, the Jewish God. They'd constructed many altars, one of which Paul noticed had the inscription, "To an unknown God." He stood there and he looked at them and he said, "Oh, I can see that you are very religious." Perhaps he was being a little sarcastic. We don't know the tone of his voice. He wasn't demeaning the people nor attempting to destroy their images or their idols, but he used the moment to point to something deeper. So he proceeded to tell them about his God, who can be known in and through this man Jesus of Nazareth. He even quotes one of their poet philosophers to them, who referred to God as the one in whom we live and move and have our being. I wondered what Paul may say if he showed up today around here, around Edinburgh. What would he say to people? Would he say, "I can see how religious you are"? Would he say, "Oh, I am aware there are many of you no longer read the Bible or any sacred books, but you have a shelf full of paperbacks on mindfulness and such things"? "Oh, I see that you love to go on retreat to find peace and you like candles, but you call it a spa day." "Oh, I see you wear a cross round your neck as attractive jewellery, yet you instinctively find yourself playing with it in moments of fear or anxiety and feel vaguely comforted." Would Paul look at these things and say, I can see that you are religious. Is there a searching? Is there a seeking? Is there what we might call an instinct in people to discover something more, something deeper, something other? Something for which they do not yet have a name, an unknown God, if you like, which we may call God, and we have discovered in Jesus Christ. People may not claim to be religious, but we could look at the response people have to so many things. It echoes one of our own old philosophers, William James, who said, "There is a will to believe in almost all of us." We could call that a God instinct, if you like. A God instinct. Does everyone possess that? Perhaps they do. But does everyone recognise it, open themselves to it and respond to it? Perhaps not. Is it like saying everyone has common sense when clearly not everyone recognises it or draws on it instinctively? Yet while our religious buildings are closed, the places we gather to worship and have liturgies and rites, people appear to have found other ways, other instincts to draw on, to create their own liturgies and rites, to express where they are and how they feel today, all their inner desires, hopes, concerns and pain. Whether it is standing along the streets to clap like a great prayer of thanksgiving, or the children who paint stones and lay them down like an offering to give people a smile and hope. The display of rainbows in windows, just like the Bible story, to hold on to the promise that the 40 days and nights will end. All the singing, playing music, entertaining from the confines of a room, shown on the windows of Facebook, revealing the creative instinct planted within each of us. All the shopping for elderly neighbours, phoning people who are lonely, helping other folk work out how Zoom functions. All these are signs of compassion, of the Word made flesh. The word liturgy has its root meaning in the work of the people. Not the words of the priest or the functions of the minister, but the work of the people. What the people do and offer in love and trust, that lies at the very heart of worship. Dare we say, like Paul, I can see you are very religious. I often think of my late friend who would say before doing anything new, is this a church thing or is this a Jesus thing? Because people do things which are not church things, we cannot assume it's not a Jesus thing or an expression of that God instinct. Among the many things we have been learning over these past weeks of lockdown, perhaps one thing is surely that the worship of God and the worth of love is not confined to nor contained in a church building nor its forms of worship. These things have been taken from us for now, but our eyes have been drawn to look for God's activity and to recognise signs of his glory in the world around us, beyond the walls. When Paul pointed people towards Jesus as the one who was what they were looking for, he didn't point them to the door of a religious building, or to church membership, or to sign up for a coffee rota. He pointed them to a person and to a life and to a way of living in which and through which they would discover this unknown for which they had been searching. People felt they could not know this distant God, the God that they could not even name. But Paul encouraged them to believe that he is much closer than they might think. And in Jesus Christ, we can see him and we can make him known whenever the Word is made flesh. Amen.